This here is a Nintendo Switch, well, not this piece of paper, but inside this box we have a Switch Lite which has no power even after charging for a long period of time. Not been opened by myself and bought it at a car boot sale as is. This message comes from somebody called Dan, who is a viewer of the Joey Does Tech channel, and I purchased this Nintendo Switch Lite from Dan for £30. I have not looked at a Nintendo Switch Lite for a very long time, and I'm looking forward to see if we can restore this to its former glory and get it all up and running. Maybe even potentially sell it for a nice little profit. First things first, let's get it open and inspect the device. Dan did actually send me photos even before he sold me this Nintendo Switch Lite, so I think I know the rough sort of condition that it's in, and it seems to be in pretty good condition. So for £30, pick this up is a bit of a steal. Very well packaged, if I do say so myself. We've got the bubble wrap. Love myself some packing paper for future boxings. Package in a package is what I love to see. Extra security, extra safety. Here she is. Yeah, look at that. That is absolutely fantastic condition. Look at the screen. Very, very nice. It says apparently that it just doesn't charge, but I can't see any signs of, rough housing or anything like that. The screws themselves don't look stripped at all. Again, they look in really, really good condition. We don't have a micro SD card, do we? Actually do. Lord above. It's 128 gig as well. Nice. We don't have a game. There's no there isn't. Okay, fine. I thought I was going to get the 2-in-1 old situation there, but that is not bad at all. That's a SanDisk Ultra as well, 128 gigs. So I feel like that's really, really good. I'll try a very obvious thing right here and just try and turn it on. I don't think that's going to work, unfortunately. Would you look at that? It doesn't. I want to have a look at the state of the charging port just to see if that's where we've got our issue here. And if we do have a bad charging port, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just going to be a bad charging port. It could be M92T36, it could be the BQ charging IC, it could be anything. It could even be the dreaded APU, which I hope is not the case. And how that works is if the charging port is mashed up and then voltage goes through on two crossed pins that are bridged, it can send an incorrect amount of voltage over into the APU and fry the system. And we don't want that, obviously. Hopefully, if that has happened, it's happened to the M92 power management IC, which is easily, quote unquote, easily replaceable. Let's head over to the old microscope. Oh, yeah, look at that. So what's interesting as well is that the person that I bought this from did say that they had left it on for a long amount of time to charge. So there's definitely been power that's gone into this device. So what I can't do now, and this is very important, do not plug in any USB-C charging cables. Like I said, I think from the note, I can tell that Dan has done that, but I now don't want to go and make the situation 10 times worse. So let me get this taken apart. I actually like to use this, which is just a piece of white tack, and I can put all of my screws on here. Now, if I didn't know where these screws were meant to go, I would layer them on this piece of white tack. And if I had, like, for example, this chassis, I'd put the chassis screws up here, then I'd go for the next layer and do it down here, or I'd just go ahead and use some more white tack to show the different layers of an electronic device. I always hear that car boot sales are meant to be pretty good in the sense of where to go to obtain devices for cheap, but I don't know if they sell faulty devices that often, with the exception of this one. I don't know if it was accidentally Dan when he plugged this charger in, or whether it was just like that from the car boot. So let me know down below in the comment section, if you live in the UK, if you find a lot of faulty stuff at car boot sales, and whether you'd like to see me go along to some and see what I can get. Now, if I remember correctly, I should just be able to crack the side of the chassis here, rather than having to use any prying tools. Yeah. The condition of this on the inside is absolutely immaculate. So in the sense of Dan saying that he hasn't been in this before, I wholeheartedly believe him. Oh, what? I never had that. That screw is literally just snapped, but as in the screw is snapped. Look at that. Can you see that? It's not meant to be like that. It's meant to be a little bit longer, like this. Can you see how long that one is compared to this now? Oof. So the head of this screw has just come off. I don't think I'm going to be able to get that out of that bit of plastic down there, hey? Pop this off and give it about 150 degrees worth of heat, and that should come off nicely without bending the heatsink pipe. Just like that. It's the felt here, this bit of felt. That's what adheres it to the fan. Before I go any further, I'm just going to unplug the battery. I do have this little doohickey device, which is extremely handy, which now allows me to lay the Nintendo Switch Lite flat whilst I go ahead and take off all the screws. So that screw's just come off as well. What's happening here? I've never had this. I don't know if the Switch has been under certain conditions whereby they're doing that. I have no idea. And it's definitely not my Philips, because I use this all the time. I use the same head because that one's too big. Have they started using plastic screws in these devices? What's going on? The water damage indicator down here is still completely white and red, which means that we don't have any liquid ingress on the board at all, which is really, really nice. Right, let's take this board out. So I've got the port on right now. I haven't removed it. So my first port of call, see what I did there, is to remove this port. However, I am just going to see if we do have a short on our M92T36 power management IC and our BQ chip. So this is the back. That does look like it's been a little bit discolored, but it could just be the lighting. I've got my multimeter in continuity mode, which is the mode that beeps when I have a continuous path. So when there is 0 ohms worth of resistance and we have a complete circuit, this will beep under 50 ohms. So what I'm going to do is place my black probe on ground, and I'm going to probe around. Oh, what's that? Oh, can you see that scratch? It's quite a big scratch here that goes from this corner all the way down to here and here. There's a little one here. There's a few scratches on this board, you know, which I don't know how they would get there if somebody's not been inside the device. That's not me saying that Dan has been inside it. It just means the person that maybe sold it knew of the condition, maybe potentially even tightened the screws up too much, hence why they have snapped. I'm just giving this a quick visual inspection to see if they've potentially knocked anything, because I see that scratch and I go, if somebody's been inside here before, maybe they've done something else. But at a quick glance, it doesn't look like we're missing any components that would be of importance. But yeah, there are a few, I know that was a hair, a few scratches on the back anyway. Let me check around M92T36, like I was just saying. So meter in continuity mode, black probe on ground, and I'm going to start probing right away. Look at that. On our first cap, which is at the top, we have a short on M92T36. It's a 30 ohm short, so it's not a direct short to ground. However, it's still 30 ohms. And then if I check these ones as well, yeah, look. Wow, this is a hard short. 2 ohms there, 1 ohm there, 330 there. I think that's an okay reading. But this one, 1.6. If I measure ground, what are we at ground? Okay, so it's probably like a 1 ohm short. So this might not even be a short to ground, you see. So we got 1.7 there, but if I measure ground to ground, it's 0.2. So this isn't a direct short to ground, but it's a low rail, that's for sure. Let me check this cap. This is the dreaded CPU cap. Now, if this is shorted on this side, which goes into M92T36, we have a big problem. And that is going to suggest that the CPU/APU, which is under this big shield right here, is kaput. So let me just test that cap. Give me a 3, 2, 1. No. I don't believe it. Oh no. Well, that is pretty much all she wrote for this Nintendo Switch Lite. Unfortunately, anyway, that's a bad APU. So if we take a look at the port again, that doesn't mean game over just yet. I'm having a think. Now that we've got the board out of the chassis itself, you can see, look how mangled this port is. Wow. That row's fine, but this one, yeah, it goes across literally every single pin, except for the ones on the right. So what's most likely happened is that voltage has gone straight to the APU. Now, I've done an APU transplant on a Nintendo Switch, but I've not done one on a Switch Lite. So I am considering it, thinking that this board, other than the APU now being faulty, might be okay. It's not to say that that's 100% the case, because all of that voltage going through to the APU, it might have gone to other areas of the board and fried stuff, you know, like the LCD driver and all sorts of bits and bobs, but we can't be certain of that. What I can be certain of is that the APU is done for. Do I transfer another Switch APU onto this board? If I do, I think I'm also going to have to switch the NAND. I don't think I'm going to have to do the anti-piracy IC. I didn't have to do that before, and the Nintendo Switch seemed to be working absolutely fine without it. Could be wrong though. Again, feel free to let me know that information in the comments. I'm pretty sure the eMMC on these devices is under this little square here. So I'd have to transfer that IC. I'd have to transfer the APU under here as well, which is not an easy job. I also need to confirm that the RAM is going to be okay, because that might have taken a hit being on low voltage and whatnot. And what I'll show you is, just to quickly confirm my thesis, I will remove M92T36 from the board, and we should still have our short on that cap. Now that's a dead short to ground, you know. So usually, I mean, if this component is short, you kind of see sometimes 20, 30 ohms or something, but seeing it dead short to ground, I don't know. It could also be, wait a minute, I might be jumping at the gun a little bit, because it could be that those pins are still touching on the port, and that is what's causing our issue here. So let me just let me do a couple of things to confirm, and then we'll make a plan after that. I'm not very good at APU swaps. I haven't done that many of them. I think I've done 1 or 2 successfully. So it would be something to do for practice purposes. And let me also just confirm, you would never really do this for a customer as like a service, because the cost and time that it takes to actually swap an APU on a Nintendo Switch, or not even a Nintendo Switch, any device for that matter, when it comes to soldering, it's never going to be worth your time unless there is something like data at risk, in where the customer is then willing to pay extra amounts to cover your labor and costs for the process to take place. But when it comes to a Nintendo Switch, you know, I think that's rarely going to happen. So whilst I say it's good to practice, it is for my skills, but in terms of trying to make a profit for a service, for example, it's not going to be worth it, in my opinion, of course. Now that I've taken that off, let me just confirm that our shorts have got, I think our shorts are going to be gone from these caps, but this cap, our short is still going to be there. So let me confirm. Yep, we don't have a short here. So this is ground, and we no longer have a short here. We don't have a short here. Neither do we have the 300 ohms. No short here, no short here. So our shorts have been cleared on M92T36. However, this one, you can see we still get 0 ohms. Now, what I will quickly do is remove the port just to see if that is doing anything to this cap. I highly doubt it. I've never had that whereby I've removed the port and it's alleviated a short on this capacitor. I mean, if it does, I will be shocked, very shocked. But let me remove this port quickly. 450 degrees Celsius. Airflow speed is a nice 50%. And I'm just circling the hot air to remove this port. If you're interested in seeing this step by step and covering a lot more of a basis, I'll leave a school link down below where I actually have paid courses on going really in depth with these types of repairs. Port removed. Look at the state of that. Wow. Crazy. And that's how you can ruin a device, hey? And was I right? Do we still have our short on that cap? Let's see. Yes, we do. So we still got our short. So this side ground, which is meant to be ground, as we can see. Ground. But this side is not meant to be ground. And that is coming up at dead short to ground. That is ground as you can get. Let me do some investigating and see what it is that I actually need and require to be able to do this swap. What I'm going to do first is inject a tiny bit of voltage, no more than probably... Well, if the APU is already gone, I'll probably do 0.75 to start, just to see if there's anything that gets warm. I don't want to just go ahead and assume that it's going to be the APU. It could be the RAM. And maybe if I do a little bit of an injection, it will help me understand whereabouts it's coming from. I need to take the shielding off. If I don't take the shielding off, we know what's going to happen, right? I'm not going to be able to see where it's getting hot. Sometimes these shields can be an absolute pain. And the thing is, right, if you use tweezers that are too small, what happens is that you'll put it in, you'll bend it, and it'll bend the tweezer. If you use ones that are too thick, you won't be able to get the shield off because you can't get the tweezer in the little notch. So you do have to be a little bit, you know, cautious and careful. Quite cautious and careful, should I say. Okay, that's off. Let me clean up the thermal pasta that we've got. I did just buy some cotton buds, actually. Like, soldering a wire here to this cap is going to be extremely tough because it's also going to be next to a few of the lines and ground. I don't want it bridging. So I was going to see if there's a better location this side that I can inject to, and then that will allow me to see which component is essentially getting hot, whether it's going to be the APU or whether it's going to be the RAM. 75. No, it's definitely not ground. But it looks to be neither. There's no way this is sucking up 500 milliamps worth of current, by the way, and not showing what's going on. I'm very confused. Unless it's eMMC, that's the only thing that I can think of is potentially, is it the eMMC? In which case, well, again, that wouldn't necessarily matter. And I'm pretty sure, am I right in thinking this is the eMMC? NAND, yeah, right. Let me see if it is that, because it could have been hidden from this. I'll also take the Wi-Fi one off just in case. No, it's not eMMC, and it's not Wi-Fi. My guess is still APU. I'm a little bit confused as to why I can't necessarily see any heat. But what I'll do is I'll quickly take off that cap and just make sure that we still get our issue. Because can you imagine if the cap itself was shorted? Again, I never had that. If that cap were shorted, we would see, however, heat, I'm pretty sure. Let me just see now. Short to ground. Why would you do that to me? It showed that the short was gone. And then I tested the probe, so I put it back on, and then it came back. Okay, right, so the short is still there. Let me just see if I can get a really accurate reading. So I've got 0.4, 0.3. Ground here is 0.2 dead on. So I wonder if this isn't a short to ground, you know. I wonder if there is like there's a tiny bit of increase in resistance just there. I am fully aware that it could also be a faulty bit of RAM. And I thought injecting voltage there would tell me exactly which component, whether it will be one of the three, you know, the APU or one of the RAM sticks. I thought it was going to tell me which one it was to make my life a little bit easier. Because if I go ahead now, take off the APU, rectify that short, but then, sorry, if I don't rectify that short, then I'm going to have to remove these and just put the APU back on. You know what I mean? So I thought it was going to help me in that scenario. And I don't know whether to blitz it up now from 1 volt to 1.5 or not. I think I'm just going to remove the APU and see if that eradicates our short. If I remove the APU and the short is still there, I'll throw the ball out the window. One question. Now, I know from a recent video I did, there's 2 actual APUs. I don't know why I didn't know this. I think it's just because I'm stupid, right? So there's 2 different APUs for the V1 and V2. There's 2 separate APUs. When I say V1, V2, I mean there's 2 different version types of Nintendo Switch board model numbers. There's loads of different variations, but 2 different types. And you've got the Rev 1, the Rev 2. And I think the difference is HAD and HAC. A HAD CPU is different to a HAC CPU. Some of the rails don't line up properly. When I done my recent video about trying to transfer a Nintendo Switch APU onto another board based on my donor part from the loft, I actually think that the CPU was incompatible with that board after all that. So it could explain as to why it didn't work, which is really interesting, I feel. My question is, I wonder if it's the same for Nintendo Switch Lites. How many different model variations are there for a Nintendo Switch Lite, you know? So I'm going to check and see, because this is a HDH CPU. So I don't know if there's multiple revisions of it, or whether there is just going to be one. What I need to check, so this says stream 0.5 amps, right? Sorry, 0.45 amps. What I'll do is I'll turn it around and I'll see if on this cap here, whether we've got a short. We don't. So can you see 435? That to me says okay, you know. It's 0.45. Okay, so what I need to actually confirm is that the NAND is going to be okay. So if this is 0.45, and I said that I was going to operate it on a stream, there's 2 big things here. The APU is paired with the NAND. So when I transfer this APU over to another Nintendo Switch Lite, I need to make sure I transfer the NAND as well. Now, by doing this, if this is a 0.45 and the NAND is faulty, then there's no point in me taking the APU. So what I need to do is I need to find another one which doesn't have the short and see if I can transfer it. Exactly same, 418. And I've got the APU here. I don't know if I've tried taking that off or not. It kind of looks a bit scuffed, to be fair. So I'm not going to use that one, just in case, because I'd rather take one that was relatively clean, you know. HDH CPU 02. So this is a CPU 10. This is a CPU 02, but it's still HDH. So, but I don't know if compatible. It looks like maybe somebody's taken the shield off this. Let me just inspect. Right, let me just double check and see. NVIDIA. Is there different markings on the chip? There is slightly different markings. Oh, wait, I think the bottom one is the important one. NXA1. Cool. Yeah, that's the same. Let me firstly, let me take the CPU off this one, which is our quote-unquote bad cap board, is what I'll refer it to. So what I'll do now is come through with some flux. I'm going to go over this APU as quick as possible, because I need to make sure as well that we don't have any torn pads, because if we have torn pads, it's game over. They all look, so far, they all look all right. Let's just give this some more flux, that is. We're at 420 degrees Celsius here. So I'm adding some leaded. And I'm just going over the board. Very lightly. What this allows me to achieve is mixing leaded solder with the unleaded that we have on the board. That will ultimately bring down the melting temperature we have, making it easier for us to wick up what we have on the board itself. I'm doing this, but I don't know if this is the right thing to do, in the sense that I need to check to make sure the short's okay. So technically, you could argue this is a bit of extra work at the moment. I've got faith that the APU was the fault. Board's gone a bit cold, so I'll come in with some more heat. Need to turn the fume extractor up. A little bit more. Clean her up, and I'm going to glide the microfiber cloth over it. Watch this. IPA now. As a finisher, getting all the nooks and crannies. And that is a clean pull, in my opinion. The question is our short gone? Continuity mode. Yeah, there we go. So we got our ohms back now. All right, 700 ohms. So that's good. This was a short to ground before, like this. Now we got our 700 ohms back. And climbing. I think that will eventually go over 1,000 ohms. But, okay, what we need to do now is, I think, install another APU and NAND, for that matter. Let me take this one apart. Take this one off, should I say. Truth be told, this is the first time I'm removing a NAND from a Switch Lite. So I have no idea what to expect. It's tiny. What? I didn't expect it to be that small. So now we're removing this APU from our donor. Oh, man. Syringe was next to the hot air gun. Where's the other? I don't know where the other APU is, but I don't want to get them mixed up. I'll just take this NAND off. I'm just putting some heat into this chip. A little bit, not too much. Little trim. Oh, guys, do you remember I said about Insomnia? Does anybody know that I was talking about Insomnia? Guys, it's been cancelled. Insomnia's been cancelled. They cancelled the gaming event. I'm really upset. Yeah, I'm going to DreamHack. I think I'm going to DreamHack in Birmingham on the Saturday to walk around and have a butcher's. I've got like a creator pass. But yeah, the DreamHack stuff is more so for gamers. So was Insomnia, to be fair. Insomnia was for gamers as well. Right, let me take this APU then and just make sure I've just cleaned the stencil for it. We're going to dry a bit of paste first. Here we go. Technically, it says 180. I'm going to go 250. I can never remember the temperature that I use. See how the stencil's warped? I don't think it was bad, but I'll have to look. It's hard to say when it's in the stencil because everything looks okay. But then you take it out and everything goes wrong. I think there's a ball missing down here. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know how it escaped, but it is what it is. Let's take it out now. It's fallen out quite nicely, to be fair. A couple of places that don't have balls. I'm just going to up the temp now. 280. Give it a little reflow. It's actually really hard to see where, like, stuff isn't, you know? I think we're missing 1, 2, 3... 4. That's really hard to see what size balls these are going to be, which is why I kind of like using balls, because then you know what everyone is uniform. I mean, it looks okay with the old paste. Yeah, it's done a good job, to be fair. It's done all right. Probably a lot quicker as well. These are the 0.4s. That looks a bit better to me. I'll put these two on and I'll see how I get on. Airflow speed down to, I'll put it 10% because I've got no nozzle on. Am I going to be okay? Probably not. Let me go 5. I'll try and point to where it is that I'm working, so you can see it fall into place just here. These two. 1, 2. It'll probably be easier with a nozzle, you know? Yeah, I feel like this job's going to be easier with a nozzle because I can direct it more. Let me see if that did solidify it. No. Come in with a nozzle now. Bit more direct. There's one. Put a bit of flux on. There they go. They look perfect. So there's also one missing here and down here. I'll have a look and see if there's another one missing in a sec. Once I get these on, I can just do like a... Oh, I see it. You guys are right. As you said it, I literally saw it. There might be more, but we'll see. I don't even know where the first one was. Oh, I see it. It's a bit shinier. Way too much flux, but hey ho. There it goes. And then down here. I'll just go from both because I have no idea. I can't remember where the other one was either. Oh, there goes one. There goes the other. I think that's it. It's pretty good. Happy with that. Usually, I don't get too happy with the balls, as you guys know. I don't usually get too happy with the balls, but that's a result. I think that's gone really well. That's not bad for a paste, guys. I'll be honest. I'm happy with that. I think that might be my best pasting yet. I'm happy with that. Everything looks pretty much the same size. The light reflections that you see, is going to be flux, but that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. And then I've got this. I don't know if I've got a stencil for this. I'll be honest. I think I've got an EMMC stencil. Oh, we don't. We don't have one. I need a very, very, very thin coating of flux here. I think 0.4 is too big. I think 0.3 will be better. Right, 0.3. Very sensitive chip, so I'm just taking my time. Okay, now we come in flux. Here we go. Watch the magic happen. That's a delicate one, that. Right, so that dot is there, and then if I flip this over... Oh, that feels better, yeah. It's not that high, is it, though? Wow, trying to get this in line is tough. This is really tough. So I need to be super careful. This is going to move, by the way. Just as a heads up, this is going to move. I think she settled. There she goes. I don't normally nudge test, but I'm going to have to. She's good. All right, that's one done. That's the one. We go 400. Here we go. I'm honing in. See it move? That's all she needs. That's it. I have replaced the APU and eMMC on this Nintendo Switch Lite, and now we're going to see if it works. I'm not going to have to put the port on just yet. Actually, saying that, I do need to put an M92T36 on, as well as check that short where the cap is and the cap itself as well. Then we can give it a test, but I can hook it straight up to a battery, a known working one, and see if it turns on. This could be horrendous, or it could be one of my best fixes, if I'm honest, because I've transferred the eMMC, I've transferred the APU. That's a big fix. That's a big fix. I need to see how much charge this has got in. I actually doubt it's got anything in, so I do need to grab another battery. Zero as well? Okay, so what that means is that I have to install a port on this before I can test. Because I don't have any... Oh, wait a minute. I might have... No, those chassis aren't going to have any battery in. Okay, so I'm just going to have to put a port on to charge anyway. Oh, no! I'm so sorry, guys. Oh, no! M92T36 for the charging aspect. I did have a board with an M92, didn't I? And I said, oh, this has got an M92T36. I can just use this. And what did I do? I put M92 in the box with everything else that I've got in here. So a couple of screws just to secure it and make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so essentially what we're looking at here is we are looking at this ammeter. Let me get rid of the multimeter because we don't need that currently. If I turn that off, we're looking at this ammeter. If this ammeter shows 15 volts, that's really good. If it shows 5 volts, it could be a bad M92T36. Could be something related to the APU as well, but we're not going to jump ahead here. 3, 2, 1. Have we fixed the unfixable? It feels janky, but I don't know if that's the cable. Up. My instant feeling is, I mean, I look at that reading and I go, it's either two things. It's either going to be CPU drawing 100 milliamps, or it's going to be charging the Okay, it's charging the battery, because now it's jumped up. My issue is that I don't have a battery charging symbol on the screen. So I think that was a flat battery rather than a bad APU. But I just don't understand why I don't have a battery symbol here. I did plug in digitizer and LCD. I'm just going to measure the battery and see if it's taking a charge. It's charging. I just can't remember exactly how much it needs to turn on. I think 3.7 is enough. It says 3.8 on the battery, but I feel like 3.7 is enough. But I think I'll let it go to 3.8. It's 3.8 now. Should have turned on, in theory. Let me push the power button and see if anything happens. It's not going to because we don't have anything on the screen. But what's weird is that it looks all right. I'm just keen to see what happens when we plug in without battery attached. 43. That's not normal. It should drop down to 0. Yeah, it's 43. So this way you see this 43 here, it should not be 43. It's not good. That means something wrong somewhere. Now, that 43 might give me something as a heat spot. Yeah, you see that little spot? Oh, man. On that corner. That'll show the APU getting hot. You see that? That shows it a bit better. There's like a general failure on the APU here. It could be a couple of different things. And I'd probably say it's a 50-50 chance. It could be my soldering. But I did think genuinely that the balls were all the same size. Plus, it sat down really nicely. There wasn't too much flux applied. So I feel like we got the sit and the solder was relatively good. The other explanation could be that it was a bad APU from the other board, which is why that board was a donor board. I have no idea, right? The only test that I did to confirm that it wasn't a faulty APU was testing the same cap, and that cap was fine. But there are hundreds of data points and power points on this APU. So yeah, as you can see, the APU is getting hot. We're drawing 43 milliamps, which is not suffice enough. So it's a shame, but it also is what it is. I'll be using this chassis for another project because it is in very, very good condition. But the board itself I'll be using as a donor. And unfortunately, you can't fix them all. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. And as always, I shall see you in the next one. Peace.